have a seat at the table and look around. That's what your guests are going to be seeing.
When your house is a mess and you're feeling the stress, what you need is a friend in your ear. Start the job and you'll see it through with Ronnie talking to you. Make the chaos disappear. Clean with Me podcast is here.
Welcome back, cleaning besties. In today's episode, we're going to clean your dining room. And this episode is part of my Deep Cleaning for Holiday Guests series. So it's time to gear up for our cleaning session. Maybe you need to freshen up for the day, put on some shoes, run a brush through your hair, whatever else. Or maybe you need to start a load of laundry or straighten up your immediate front entrance. Whatever will help you feel ready to dive into deep cleaning your dining area. Like I said, this is part of a Deep Cleaning for Holiday Guest series, but even if you're not hosting a holiday dinner soon, it's always a good idea to deep clean any area of your home. And in this episode, we're going to focus on the dining room. Just a quick recap of what I've been talking about lately in case you're new to the show and you want to go back and listen to some recent episodes. Last Monday, I just talked you through a kitchen reset because obviously as we're preparing for the holidays, we still need to keep up with those everyday tasks. And then the week before that, I did an episode entitled Holiday Cleaning Motivation. And then my most recent episode for financial supporters was entitled Declutter Your Hall Closets with Me. So if you haven't heard that one yet, I encourage you to check that out. You can subscribe to bonus content for a small monthly fee. And you can do that either on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Patreon. But the point of that episode was not only having like your coat closet presentable in case a guest opens that up, but more importantly, freeing up storage space so that you can begin to store more items out of sight so that the rest of your house will look good. Hopefully you're off the couch, you're off the bed, and you're up and moving and starting to gear up for your cleaning session, whatever you needed to do to get started. But one of the themes of this holiday deep cleaning series is storing more of your belongings out of sight. Okay? Now's not the time to fall for the convenience fallacy where you tell yourself it's more convenient to have things visible, and you worry that you might forget you have them or it might take too long for you to get them out when it's time to use them. Don't tell yourself that lie. And if you do decide later that you'd rather keep certain things sitting out, great. But if you're entertaining holiday guests in the near future, you're going to want to store as much as possible out of sight. Eliminating that visual clutter can work wonders, and it will also make it faster when it's time to deep clean your surfaces. When preparing for guests, you mainly need to do 4 things. Number 1, store more out of sight, like I just talked about. Number 2, deep clean your surfaces. Number 3, purchase any necessary items and maybe a few extras. Let's face it, sometimes you're low on silverware or glasses, or you need a fresh welcome mat or a scented candle or something like that. Maybe add some things to your shopping list for later. The 4th one is only for those of you who will be having overnight guests, and that is to wash the bedding in your guest room. And if you're going to be maybe displacing one of your kids, you'll want to do that closer to the event. But I know that at least one of my guests will be staying in my back office, so that bedding's going to get washed several days in advance. I'm recording this episode about 2.5 weeks before Thanksgiving, but I'm hoping that people will use this episode to get ready for any holiday in the future. And you may be thinking, 4 things, I have to do a lot more than that. Well, those are very broad categories. And over the next 2.5 weeks, we're going to be tackling each area of your home and basically checking those boxes. Let's get started in your dining room. And as you're working, I'll talk more about what's to come. The first thing you need to do, of course, is remove any clutter, any obvious clutter. Do you have items sitting on the table? Maybe you have something on the table that belongs there, like a fruit basket or centerpiece, or maybe you have things that don't belong, kids' art projects, your husband's tools. There's no telling, but now's the time to clear off that table and put everything where it goes. Or if it goes on the table, just set it aside so that you can clean the table. Okay, that would be, what you would do in the case of a centerpiece. And we're going to talk about the rest of the room and even the surrounding areas. But for right now, I just want you to clear off the tabletop. This week's bonus episode is going to be another holiday deep cleaning episode about baseboards, doors, and windowsills. However, if you don't subscribe to bonus episodes, you can, of course, clean your baseboards, doors, and windowsills during these episodes or while listening to music or another podcast. But I'm going to go into more detail about how to clean those areas in the bonus episode. And then in next week's regular episode, I'm going to talk about cleaning your master bedroom and bathroom and the guest room. And then next week's bonus episode will be cleaning your guest bathroom. And that's going to be a deep clean, but don't worry, for those of you who are not subscribers, you will get some instruction on cleaning your guest bathroom in the final episode of the Deep Cleaning for Holidays series, which will come out on the 25th. That'll be the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. In that episode, we'll be talking about your guest bathroom and the floors throughout your whole house. The day before that, on Monday the 24th, you'll be doing a holiday deep clean of your kitchen, and that'll include a reminder to clean out your refrigerator and microwave, wipe down walls in the kitchen, etc. Okay, by now you've cleared off your dining room table. The next thing I want you to do is have a seat at the table and look around. That's what your guests are going to be seeing. Maybe you need to sit in different chairs or just do kind of a 360 and look all around. Do you see any problem areas in your home that are noticeable from the dining room table? For example, a few days ago, our cat litter box was still in the line of vision, and I had my daughter relocate that to her bedroom as we're gearing up for entertaining holiday guests, and I'm kind of hoping she'll just keep it in there permanently. Just saying. I think I like having it in her room because it's going to force her to scoop the litter more often when it's right nearby. So those of you cat owners, it's not that your guests can't see your litter box at all, but it needs to be far, far away from where they'll be eating or where they'll be sitting, in the living room or whatever. And most people, I feel, probably keep it in their laundry room. I wish I had a bigger laundry room. But that litter box thing was just an example. I want you to just kind of look around and, see if there are any other eyesores that need to be dealt with and then deal with those. And then, of course, you want to also look at your immediate dining area. Are there any items being stored on the floor that need to be moved or just forgotten items under the table? Maybe it's been a while since you've vacuumed or swept under the table if you don't eat at that table very often. Basically, just pick up the floor over the next few minutes. By the way, with any of these holiday deep cleaning episodes, I realize that thorough deep cleaning takes longer than this. My goal is just to get you started and remind you of the tasks that need to be done in any given area. But keep in mind, my holiday deep cleaning has already begun, and I'm typically spending several hours on it every Saturday. So you may need to, pick a couple of days leading up to Thanksgiving or whichever holiday you're preparing for, since you might be listening to this at a different time of the year. You might need to set aside a couple of full days for deep cleaning. Okay, I'm not going to sugarcoat that, but I'm trying to just go over some things that might need to be done and at least get you started on them. Or if, you're in kind of a good place with your house, it might already be in good condition and you're just needing to do some finishing touches during these episodes. The point is to be up and moving, and I realize you probably have some non-cleaning related podcasts on your playlist that you can listen to as you continue on after the episode. Or better yet, binge some of my older episodes. I have a lot of content for any room of the house. If you scroll back, you'll see other episodes where, we focus on outer areas and kitchens. Although I will admit, I don't know if I talk about the dining room in a separate episode normally. It's typically just kind of tacked on, I think. I probably don't talk about it enough, so I'm glad I'm finally making a dining room episode. But for most areas in your home, there are numerous episodes. The next thing I want you to do is spray and wipe down your dining room table. While you're doing that, I'll just say you might want to think about putting the leaves back in your table. If you have one of those tables that has removable leaves, hopefully you know what I'm talking about by those, but there are sections of table that make it longer. If you're having company, that's the time that you want to make the table bigger. I like to take out the leaves in January so that we have just more space to walk around in our eat-in kitchen. But we have a couple leaves out in the garage, and my husband and I are going to put those in soon. But before you do that, of course, you want to make sure that the table's clean. And if you don't have any leaves, once the table's clean and dried, you might want to find your holiday tablecloth and put that on. I purchased kind of a semi-disposable one, I'll call it. I mean, it's not like a thin plastic one like you see at an outdoor birthday party or something like that. It's a little nicer than that, but I don't know that it's one that I'm going to necessarily keep year after year. It's a cheap one, but it's cute. It has like a holiday coffee theme. And when I'm getting ready for holiday guests, I try not to save everything for the last minute. That tablecloth's going to go on as soon as we put the leaves in, and then we're going to just keep the table clean. Be scrubbing your table and chairs, by the way. You don't want your guests to grab a chair and it's sticky. But kind of my strategy when cleaning in advance of entertaining guests is that once I clean an area, I raise the standard in that area and try to maintain it. And I realize in a perfect world, we'd do that all the time. And, that's always the goal. But let's face it, a lot of us can't maintain that level of near perfection, throughout the year. But we probably are able to step up our game for a couple of weeks. For example, the last time I cleaned out my microwave, I set this little plastic cover in there, and everybody's been really good about covering their plate before they reheat food. That's something we try to do all the time, and we should do all the time, but especially leading up to a dinner party where people are probably going to heat up leftovers later. Maintenance is key. And I want to give you a couple minutes to really detail your table and chairs. You might also have a high chair that needs to be cleaned if you have a toddler or a baby. So I'm going to give you a little time on that, and then we'll talk about baseboards and windowsills. But keep in mind, there is going to be a specialized bonus episode this week where I talk about that. And even though I kind of gave you the schedule of what I'm going to be talking about and when with this deep cleaning series, I don't want you to feel like you should necessarily wait for those episodes to deep clean any areas. The more you can get done in advance, the better. And like I said, I have tons of other episodes dating back to 2018 for you to choose from. Of course, when you put leaves in the table, if you are expanding your table in that way, you want to walk all the way around it, pull out the chairs, push them in. Just make sure that there's plenty of space and that people aren't having to ask other people to let them get by. I mean, obviously, you might have a real small house, a real small dining area, and it might be impossible to keep that space around the table to where people can easily pull out their chairs and get around others. But if you're able to create that space, then definitely position the table in such a way that people can easily get in and out. Another thing to be aware of are your curtains and blinds. I don't have blinds in my dining room. It's part of my large eat-in kitchen. There's a window by the table and it has a sheer curtain because outside of that window is just my backyard and I have a really tall cinder block wall. So we feel a lot of privacy as far as our backyard. My mom and I were just talking about this the other day. A new subdivision is going in her neighborhood and many of the houses are going to be 2 stories. We were talking about how when you get a 2-story behind you, they can look down into your yard. Well, in our neighborhood, there are not any 2 stories. And we have a cinder block wall around our backyard. In these parts, they call it a fence. Where I come from, that would be a concrete wall. But it's almost 7 feet tall, and the houses are 1 stories. So somebody would have to go out of their way to try to look into my backyard, as in stand up on something. Which is nice, in case I want to step out on the patio now and then in my nightgown. So that's why I just have a sheer curtain on my dining room window and then also the back sliding glass door. So with those, I could just throw them in the washing machine on a delicate cycle. Obviously, do that at your own risk, but it should be fine. But of course, if you have blinds, you're going to want to either wipe them down slat by slat or take them outside and hose them off. Although sometimes you can close them and kind of wipe them down, in larger strokes. So that's, a possibility. Hopefully by now you've wiped down your table and chairs, high chair. You've removed clutter from the floor, under and around the table. You've made sure that people are going to have room to walk around the table, and you've also evaluated their view from the table. Pause the episode if you need more time, or just continue working on this stuff long after the episode ends. But at some point, you're going to want to wipe down your windowsills, clean your baseboards, maybe even wash your windows inside and out. You're not necessarily going to wash every window of your house, but I want you to focus on the areas where your guests are going to be spending the most time, like the table they're going to be eating at, or the living room couch where they might be sitting down and watching the game. Make sure that those windows, windowsills, and whatnot are clean. While we're in the dining room, be sure to look up. Hopefully you have a dusting tool that's on a pole. Okay. I have one, and you can use that to dust your fixtures, whether it's a chandelier above the table or, just a ceiling fan with a light on it or just a light. You might want to gently dust that fixture. Of course, I should have had you do that before you wipe down the table. If you're knocking dust down, of course, you'll wipe down the table again. But don't forget to look at the walls, especially in the corners. Check for cobwebs and dust those off. Of course, if you don't have a dusting tool on a pole, you could try using a step ladder or a regular ladder and a smaller duster. Or you could attach a microfiber cloth to a broomstick with rubber bands. There are a lot of ways to do that. Some of you have extremely high vaulted ceilings, and I'm not even sure how you reach some of those areas. Maybe your husband comes in with an industrial ladder from his work or something. But for most of us, the combination of a dusting tool on a pole, even if it's homemade, using a broom or mop, and a step ladder will suffice, and we can reach those corners. Be careful, of course. And of course, after the episode, you're going to want to sweep and vacuum or sweep and mop. And then the fun part is going to be a little bit of staging. If you have little ones who are always just, making a mess on the table or whatever, you might not want to put your Thanksgiving tablecloth on in advance. But my kids are teenagers and adults, and I just have the 2 teenagers living here right now. So all I have to do is have a family meeting and be like, hey, don't mess up this tablecloth. There are not going to be any oil painting projects happening at the dining room table for the next couple weeks. My daughter, who's an artist, has an easel in her room anyway, but she does some of her work at the dining room table. That's just going to be off limits. We're not going to dirty up the new tablecloth. Again, once you deep clean an area in advance, you want to maintain it. And of course, you're going to do, finishing touches the night before your guests arrive or the morning of. But you want to get all the deep cleaning out of the way and then turn over a new leaf, even if it's for a short time. You can do anything for a short time. You can raise the standard in every room. And maybe you'll even create new habits to the point where after this holiday get together, you're maintaining your house at a higher level of cleanliness. I hope you got a lot done during this episode. Special thanks to my financial supporters who have unlocked subscriber-only episodes for a small monthly fee. To learn more about how to do that, you can visit my website, cleanwithmepodcast.com. There will also be a link in the show notes. And by subscribing, you'll unlock my upcoming holiday episode where we're going to focus on baseboards, doors, and windowsills. And then a week later, there's going to be an episode on deep cleaning your guest bathroom. But most of all, just keep listening. Click follow or the plus sign on whichever app you're listening on so you'll be notified when I make a new episode. I appreciate each and every one of you. And as always, happy cleaning. I'll talk to you in the next episode.